What's going on, guys? Welcome to your fifth iPhone development tutorial. Fifth iPhone development tutorial. We are really chugging along here. And in the last tutorial, what we did is we built this property called labels text that pretty much represented the text of the label. Pretty clever, I named it that. And we made it an outlet so it could actually link to the object on the screen, and we actually created this method right here called clicked. And this is the method that's going to be called whenever you click one of those buttons. So we pretty much just gave everything a title. Now let's go ahead and add the brains to it. So in your implementation file of view controller, first thing we want to do is go ahead and delete all these comments. What my buddy Steve Jobs was so kind to do is include all of these methods that he commented out. These are some methods that you may commonly use, but you know what? We aren't going to use them in this tutorial. So anything that has a comment, get rid of that. You can go ahead and delete these two, but I mean, 4 of them, I don't have time to delete all those. I mean, they give you a nice little, message about what these methods do anyways. So anyways, back to my tutorial. Again, we declared a property called labels text, and we used the app property because we wanted to have our program automatically build the setter and getter methods. And again, I can't stress this enough. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I explain everything in my Objective-C tutorials. So anyways, go ahead and put at synthesize labels text. And by doing this, this pretty much means, alright, when you compile this, automatically build setter and getters for this labels text property. Awesome. It saves you like 20 lines of code. It automatically does everything for you. Probably one of the coolest features on Objective-C. So now that we automatically have 2 methods already, how easy is that? We actually need to build this one method right here. And this is called clicked. So go ahead and copy the header and paste that, and now let's go ahead and add the body. So like I said, this is the method whenever you click the button. This is the method that's going to be called. So if you remember from my first tutorial, not my first tutorial, but from my last tutorial, what happens when you click the button? Well, what happened was it pretty much took the title of that button and printed it out in a label at the top of the screen. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So as soon as we call this method, what we want to do is we want to get the title of the button. Alright, Bucky, how do you do that? Well, check this out. We know that this, whatever it returns, this is an action. This is the method name, but what is this? What is this crap? ID sender? Why'd you type that in? What is it? Whenever you click an object on the screen, its sender is automatically the thing you clicked. So if you clicked a label, its sender would be label. If you clicked a red button, its sender would be red button. So now we can use the properties of the sender to mess with it. So if you say get the title of sender, it's going to get the title of the button if you click button, and so on and so forth. So here is what we can do. We're going to want to create an empty string, ns, and this string, by the way, is going to store the title of the button, ns string, and therefore I'm going to name it title of button. Yeah, I am that creative. So go ahead and set this equal to sender, which is whatever button we clicked. It's going to be sender is that button. And here's what you need to do. This is where it gets kind of confusing, but not really. Title for state. This pretty much is a method that returns the property of the button. Now, want things to get even more fuzzy? Check this out. You know how a button has a bunch of different states? I mean, it has a regular state, just a control normal state that when it's just chilling on your screen. It also has a state when you press it down. It also has a state when you slide it. I mean, it has a bunch of different buttons. There's just not one method for a click button. It has a bunch of different states it can be in. So what you normally want to do is click UI control. I know control state normal. There you go. And what this pretty much means is the normal state of the button. I know they made the longest, most confusing word, but this pretty much means your normal button. So now check this out. What this method does is it's going to return the title of that button of sender. So it's going to take that title and it's going to store it in a string called title of button. I mean, this is a lot easier to work with than all this. Wouldn't you say? I would. So now what can we do now that we have the title of the button? Well, remember what we wanted to do is we wanted to print it out at the top of the screen. So let's go ahead and make another string variable, ns string, and let's name this the new label text, because we're going to be wanting to replace whatever old label's there, whether it's a blank or an old label, and we want to replace it with this new label. So the thing we want to do is take this new label and set it equal to the title of the button. So let's go ahead and ns string, allocate some space, and initialize with format. This pretty much means what format do you want the string in. I just want to print out an object and title of button. So this is all we're going to do. So make sure you lowercase alec, and check this out. What all this said is, alright, now this new label text, this is just an object that prints out the title of the button. So this is pretty much just a string that prints out the title of the button. So now, check this out. Remember, we have this labels text property right now, and since we synthesized it, it automatically built setter and getter methods for us. So now we can go ahead and do stuff like that. Labels text, and this is the label on your screen, the label that appears at the top, the text. Now the property of the text for a label is text. So anytime you want to change the text of your label, just go ahead and press whatever label you're working with, whatever object, dot text, and now you can change the text of a label. So what we want to set this equal to is new label text. So pretty much the title of the button we click is now that new labels text. Easy enough? And that's it. We're done with this method. The only thing we need to do after this is take that object we created, new label text, and release it. Because, I mean, since we allocated it, anything you allocate or retain, you have to release. That's a general rule. So remember, check this out. Remember we retained this property, labels text right here? Well, since even though it automatically built those methods for us, we still need to pretty much release those objects. So what you need to do in your, I mean, this is just housekeeping stuff right here. View did unload in here, and make sure you put this self dot label, did I name it label text or labels text? Set this equal to nil. And you know, you don't really need to know what this means right now. Just remember well, you know, I'll explain in another tutorial. It's going to take me like 5 minutes to explain. And the only other thing you need to do after this is in dealloc method, you need to go ahead and release your labels text. Remember, as a general rule, any object that you either allocate specific memory to, take out a piece of memory from your computer, you need to give it back. And since we went ahead and retained this, we're pretty much saying, hey computer, let me hold on to that memory for a little bit. So now when we're done with it, we go ahead and give it back. So again, don't forget labels text to release that, set it equal to nil, and of course, build your object. And want to know something cool? We are done with all the code that we had to build. I mean, we went ahead and built this action. Whenever a button gets clicked, it pretty much does everything for us. Went ahead and typed these two little housekeeping things. Now we're ready to jump into Interface Builder and begin linking the code to the objects and running our program. So, you know, that's it for this tutorial. Thank you guys for watching. The next tutorial, we're going to sum everything up, tie it all together, run our program. I am so excited. So I will see you then, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe.